Hi, I'm Bethany Warren, and you are joining me to listen to the podcast of our Millwall fan show with the No One Likes Us Talking team and hosted by Eamonn Barclay, which is available every Friday at 8 p.m.
Welcome to our Millwall fan show with Dave Hart, Patricia Maslin, and gorgeous George Lampy. I might have got that wrong. Not so much gorgeous, but grumpy, allegedly.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Welcome, Pat. What have you been up to?
Self-isolating, would you believe?
That's a shame, isn't it? That's life for some. How about you, George? Welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you, Eamonn. Yes, I've been out walking the fields, as much as I can.
Yeah, are you doing that for the farmer or for fun?
I am keeping an eye on his crops. I'm seeing them grow every day. He's doing a very good job, actually.
That's a bonus.
Riveting.
Yeah, it could well be. Could even be worse than riveting. And Dave, welcome to you. We're sorry, we've got a real giggly
That's okay.
Patricia Maslin here tonight. How are you, mate?
Oh, well, sat in the garden, and that's it.
Sat in the garden? Oh,
yeah.
Right. You didn't read your email either. But never mind. We'll see what happens next. Anyhow, well, it's a bit of a sombre start with us tonight, and it was sad news that came to us on Monday, as we heard that Millwall legend Alf Wood died at the age of 74. His wife and family had faced challenging times as Alf was diagnosed with dementia 12 years ago, and he had been living in a specialist care facility for the last 7. Alf's wife and family have campaigned and fundraised tirelessly on behalf of Dementia UK since his diagnosis. So firstly tonight, we turn to a member of our team to whom I spoke to earlier to talk about Alf Wood, who is fondly remembered by many. I can think of no one better to recount the period of time that Alf Wood spent with Millwall, and one of our own. It's Jeff Burnage. Welcome, Jeff.
Welcome. Yeah, it was very sad news. Of course, it's a very long time ago. So the only reason that you're ringing me is that there's nobody else old enough to be able to tell you what they can remember of Alf Wood. So
I don't know about that, Jeff. I've seen so many people praising him and saying what he. I think you're amongst good friends. That's for sure.
I think it's very sad. I hope that at some point his family, his widow Joan, 2 daughters who I think were very, very young when he was at Millwall, Karen and Samantha. I hope they hear from Millwall fans just how sad we all are and how much admired the man was.
He was.
Of course, he joined us in that summer after we just failed to get promoted to the First Division in 1972. People will remember that with a heavy, heavy heart. And I suppose it's true to say that he would have been an absolute legend at the club if he had joined a season or 2 before. Let's say 1 season before, because undoubtedly, if he'd been playing in that side, the extra points he would have got for us, we'd have got in the First Division. I suppose everybody's memory, Eamonn, is the 3rd of February 1973, less than a year later. That magnificent goal at Everton in the FA Cup, which everyone's seen on YouTube. I think that's the memory of Alf we all want to have.
Fantastic. I remember that day and being there. Harry Cripps and then Alf to finish it off.
That second goal Alf scored was a fantastic goal. If anyone hasn't seen it, please go on YouTube and see it. It was laid on by Gordon Bolland, a brilliant cross from the right, and he was put down the right by Dennis Burnett, who remembers Alf well. He was a teammate of his at Hull after they both left Millwall. And I spoke to him when the news came through, and Dennis said he remembered Alf as a good family man, really great guy. And his main memory was in training, all Alf wanted to do was to get everybody to learn exactly where to put the crosses, because he knew precisely what he wanted from every part of the field, and they practiced that over and over, and I think you can see the results of that in that magnificent goal at Goodison Park.
How would you describe Alf as the type of player that he was?
Like a lot of big, strong guys who are tough, a lot of people failed to see past that, particularly in their memory. but he was a good player. He started at Man City, as a youth team player, as a centre-back. Played in their first team. I don't think it was one of their greatest sides. Played in their first team, I think the record book shows 25 games. It was at Shrewsbury that he made his name, and it was only the last couple or 3 seasons when he was there that they converted him to a striker, and everyone remembers now the goals he scored. Yet he was strong. You didn't want to play against him. He was very genuine. He would also, when you needed him to, he'd run the channel, as they say these days, and battle away from the ball. He was a good out ball. And when I spoke to Dennis, he said, no, he was a brilliant out ball for us the whole time he was with us. So that's how I think he should be described.
So you've already answered, if I remember correctly, that he was definitely been a hero, but a legend if he'd joined us a bit earlier.
That's my opinion, yeah. I have him as a hero on our usual slot, and there's a poll going on now, isn't there?
There is.
But he would have been a legend, Eamonn, there's no doubt. If he joined a year earlier, history would have been different. I'm telling you, that was definitely the case. So I'm very, very sad about the news. And it's a shame we never had the chance to show him on a visit back to the Den how much appreciated he was. Frustrating for Chris Bettle, the usual organiser of Dockers Day, and I would love Alf to have been there with the rest of that marvellous team. He wanted to finish on a high. Did you know that I think the story goes his last ever game as a professional footballer was at Wembley. I mean, others will correct me if I'm wrong. He played in the Stafford Rangers versus Kettering final of the FA Trophy. Stafford won, I think, 2-0. Have a guess what happened. Alf scored both goals. I like to think he did retire on that note. A real hero of mine, and lots of other people too.
I think the family are doing something, certainly in his memory. Do you know much about that?
They are. I think I do know a little bit about it. People remember that a few years ago there was a story going, well, it was an issue of the time, when Jeff Astle, the great hero at West Bromwich Albion and England, who died from dementia, his family wanted to see if they could find out what had actually killed him, and they wanted an autopsy, and I don't know the details, but I know that it was decided he died from this CTE, which is the boxer's injury, repeated blows to the head, which in the old days, football, when they were made of a type of leather that absorbed the water, they felt like a rock sometimes in the wet when you headed them.
Even worse, Jeff, as I remember, when you headed the laces.
Eamonn, I was good enough to look out for where the lace was before I headed it.
You would have, course, Jeff. Sharp as you are.
But they do have a Just Giving page, and I think it would be nice if Millwall fans would send £1. You know, whatever they want, £1, £2, £5, always mentioning that it's Millwall, that's a supporter from Millwall that's sending it. I think that would show the family that he's remembered by us, and that would be very nice, I think.
I think so. That would be lovely. A last word, really, in a sentence. Sum up Alf Wood.
A real hero, a couple of years older than me, so near contemporary. And all I can tell you is that for all those years that have gone by, and that is now like 45 years ago or something ridiculous like that, 46 years ago, my memory is very clear of Alf Wood playing for us. And I think the goal at Everton is the classic memory that fans of my vintage will all have. Yeah, sadly missed.
Thanks, Jeff. R.I.P. Alf Wood.
R.I.P. Alf.
Wood going up, and that's the second, and that settles it. Bolland's cross, and Wood's header, 2-0. Everton go out of the cup. Millwall must now be in the 5th round. And a lovely header from Alf Wood, his 15th goal of the season. And absolute dejection for Everton and their supporters here at Goodison Park.
As Jeff mentioned, there is a fund in Alf's memory where donations will go to the National Brain Appeal. Just mention Millwall if you choose to donate, so his family knows what we thought of him, and give whatever you may be able. You can find the page by entering "In Memory of Alf Wood, Just Giving" into your search engine. That's "In Memory of Alf Wood, Just Giving" into your search engine. Turning to matters in relation to the club, This week, we heard from 3 different sources that the club is not to furlough the first team. Pat, you've held some strong views about this matter, and assuming this is correct, why do you think it is the best thing for the club to make a turnaround on?
Right, this is a really big bugbear of mine, Eamonn. So it goes. Of course, it's the best thing Millwall having retracted their decision not to furlough players. To be honest, I was disappointed in them for even considering it. The major question revolves around the club, what clubs should be using the scheme and how small a club you have to be. In my opinion, no Premiership or Championship club should be allowed to furlough their players. It was brought in to safeguard the economy and to protect jobs. And in these circumstances that the club are in, it's just an opportunistic cost-cutting measure. It does seem that way. Someone's got to eventually foot the bill for these, and that will be the taxpayer. And there's a considerable difference between legal eligibility and moral eligibility. And the government did say they're going to look at some certain applications and actually reject them. So that could be really embarrassing for the club if they're rejected on the grounds that the business makes too much money. On a wider issue, clubs are negotiating with players over wage deferrals to save money, as the players' wages make up the biggest expenditure. But you hear little about the executives having to take a hit. I know Brighton and Hove Albion executives are, but what of our CEO? We've heard nothing. We know the staff are on furlough, but what about our directors and that? The fact is, they haven't lost any of the broadcasting money as yet. UEFA, with the bigger clubs, have relaxed the financial fair play regulations to help the clubs get over this. And I posted a month ago that Millwall couldn't furlough players while they were training as a team or had personal training schedules that they were given out. It's illegal and it's wrong. And what's more, it's immoral.
Well, that's quite a strong view that you've given there, Pat. And there's
a lot of people. And I want to carry on because I'm going to finish this, Eamonn, because I am really annoyed with the club for this.
Okay.
I know Millwall is seen as a business, but as a footballing people, we know they're not like any other business. Despite perceptions and legal formation, they're more than that. Millwall are a community institution with social responsibilities. We require more of them in a moral sense because they're embedded in our community. They're not like any other business like Nando's or whatever. They're much more than that. Millwall will be remembered for how they behaved. And I've got a plea to those running my club, don't embarrass our name. Thank you.
Well, as I say, that was some strong views there, Pat, and there's a lot of other people that share that. But you mentioned an organisation there that intrigues me. If you was to look at the turnover for Nando's in the course of a year versus the turnover for Millwall, would you be surprised to find out that Nando's actually makes a bigger profit?
No, I wouldn't. But as I say, in a sense, it's not a business as such to us, is it?
No, certainly not to me. It feels like it's somewhere I go and it's a football club.
And they've got a different moral responsibility. We know they can get furloughed. We know that. But to me, it is a cost-cutting measure that clubs are taking up because they can and not because they need it.
That may be the case. It'd be interesting to see, I suppose, a comparable club, but actually who exist in League One, which is Sunderland. They furloughed. And it will be interesting to see how the government treats Sunderland because I think they still get pretty big gates, probably more than that we do. But
then I hope the government rejects them.
Let's wait and see. We can only find out in the future. George, given the backroom staff have been furloughed, do you think that retaining that stance, if we do indeed not furlough the first team, is still a sustainable situation?
Well, Eamonn, I better give you a short answer, seeing as Pat's gone on for about 15 minutes. I think it seems like we have two parts of the same club here to me. The players are furloughed, and yet the staff, the staff are, but the players aren't. So the players will be able to play, but the staff can't do anything at the moment. So I think if this situation becomes, further down the line, the club have obviously got to take the staff out of the fellow system, and I think it's a little bit of a catch-22 for them at the moment.
Yeah, it's difficult times, that's for sure. And making those decisions are tough too. Dave, given that the financial impact on the club from this pandemic situation, do you think we can afford to sustain our position in whatever league we play in next season?
I don't think we can, because we aren't making a profit year in, year out, are we?
No.
I think there's a loss of, I think it's around about 3 million, is it, a year?
Well, probably 5, I think, the last
5.
time I looked at it.
Well, if you rely on your fans to put money through the turnstiles, one way or the other, and that money builds up and affects the profit, must do.
Yeah.
So if you're not getting that through the turnstiles, if you play the season behind closed doors, that's not going to happen. If they write the season off, it's still not going to happen. So really, it's up to the fans to do what we can. I mean, obviously, I'm not looking for any sort of rebate on my season ticket or tickets I've purchased in advance, because I think the club need our help as much as possible.
Yeah, it's certainly tough times out there, and listening to some of the fans, that's a very strong sentiment that's shared by many.
Interesting point, that, isn't it, Eamonn?
Yeah, I think there are lots of people who said they'd forgo different things, and even I remember some woman on one site who has said she'd be happy to forgo a refund if she got some T-shirt off the club. So
no, don't start getting me in trouble, you. What I just mentioned that an Italian club had a brilliant idea for all those season ticket holders that didn't want their money back. They would give them a thank you T-shirt, and I just think that's a nice bit of memorabilia for us season ticket holders, saying, no, you keep the money, thank you.
So you heard it here first from Pat Maslin. Don't forget that, Steve Kavanagh. Print out a nice thank you T-shirt and you can keep the money. We'll take a little break there.
Bethany Warren here again. Thanks for listening to our show and this podcast. Don't forget, Love Sport Radio is still running with up-to-date sports news and news of the issues of the day. You can listen online or on DAB. Hopefully we'll be back on air with them when things get a bit better.
Welcome back. I've got Patricia Maslin, Dave Hart and gorgeous George Lampy. Oh, I got that wrong. Grumpy George Lampy. Anyhow, it's time for Legend and Hero, or Thank You. And tonight we've got Alf Wood, centre forward, nominated by the one and only Jeff Burnage from London. Okay, Pat, what do you reckon?
Oh, I remember seeing him when he first came in 72. I was only about 16. I remember how disappointed I was when we'd lost the very suave Keith Weller, and in comes this old man with facial hair, and I thought, I don't like him straight away. But I must admit, I grew to love the man. He was an Harry Cripps forward. He was fearless. He was brilliant. And that night at Everton, I mean, who could ever forget it? Absolutely brilliant guy. There's nothing more to say than that. I know he only spent 2 years with us, but I enjoyed every game he played in. You had Harry at the back, Alf at the front. Same type of player, fearless, going for anything. Magic.
Thank you very much. We'll find out what you vote after we hear from George and then subsequently Dave. George, Alf Wood for you, mate.
Oh, I'm very much in Pat's camp. I used to love watching Alf play, and he had an art of a lion. He always gave his very best for Millwall. He looked old-fashioned, even back in the day. He looked old-fashioned, but he played an old-fashioned way. He gave everything, and anybody who saw him play at that time just loved Alf Wood, and he's much loved.
Just give us a clue, George, what playing in an old-fashioned way means.
Well, he was an old-fashioned centre forward. He was strong, muscly, heading. Yeah, you would know exactly what I'm talking about, but
some of our listeners might not.
Yeah, maybe not the more silky, skilled, quick guys, but Alf was a marvellous player for Millwall Football Club and much loved by the people who saw him play.
Let's see if Dave can elaborate on that.
Well, I think what you can say about Alf Wood has already been said, but what George means is it wouldn't be allowed nowadays, but the number of games I've seen him go off and his head is bleeding, where he sticks his head where nobody else will put it.
Others there to tread.
Really gets stuck in hard.
Yeah.
He was a hard man, and he had the wherewithal to find the net when we needed it. Just great, yeah.
Okay, so Pat, legend, hero, or thank you?
I'm going to surprise you a bit here. I'm going to put him at hero.
No, you wouldn't.
Mainly, I know I've sung his praises and they're well deserved. And the fact is, he only spent 2 years with us. So you know how strong I am on who should be a legend. So I'm afraid that does give him a hero stance for me.
That's your criteria, Pat. That's fine. George, how about you?
Well, I'm very much I'm like Pat, when it comes to heroes and legends, and especially legends. But I think because Alf contributed so much to this football club in a very short space of time, he wasn't here like the Kitcheners and the Crippses. But I'm going to make him a legend, actually.
Great stuff. And you, Dave?
Well, again, I think I'll have to go with Pat. I think 2 years, 100 appearances, 38 goals, is too short a time to fit into the category of legend. I absolutely love watching him play, but I think I've definitely got to put him in hero.
Okay, so considering...
They hate me, Eamonn. They hate me.
They don't. So that's 2-2. So, fortunately, I suppose there's one way that the fans have helped us out. Stan Goodwin, as you all know, carried out a poll on Twitter. 54% went one way and 46% went the other. And the question was, Alf Wood, legend, hero, or thank you? And the 54% voted him a legend. And there was 146 people that contributed that. So if I add 2 to either side, it still remains that for our fans, Alf Wood is a legend. Thank you. It's time for our blast from the past. And in this case, it's Mark Phillips as he looks back to his time last year and he talks about Tim Cahill's boots and a bit more.
Me, Johnny Burrow and Ted Robinson, Patricia Maslin and Eamonn Barclay from No One Likes Us Talking. We do like them talking. And another man who we like talking is former Millwall defender Mark Phillips, who I'm delighted to say joins us on the line. Evening, Mark. Thanks very much for joining us.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love it. Especially for Millwall, yeah.
What about your time at the club, Mark? How was it for you?
Yeah, I had some great times, I'm not going to lie. My dad passed away, so I'd be a lifelong Millwall fan, so to play for the team that he loved was a real passion for me and a real honour and privilege. I was there from 13 years old to 26 years old, so there's so many stories. So many stories over these. It was almost like I was part of the fixtures of things at one point.
Well, let a few of them out. Come on.
Where to start? Well, when I was let me say about my debut. So when I was my debut at 18 years old at Preston away, I was a young naive kid. I used to wear moulded football boots to every game. I wasn't really bothered. The pressure of studs or mould really didn't cross my head. I was just playing football. So I turned up at Preston, obviously with my moulds. So I'm going to run out, and everyone sees me with no studs on. And Tim Cahill goes to me, Mark, where's your studs? I go, no, I don't wear studs.
what are you talking about? And then it kind of spread around to Tony Warner and Mark McGee's like, Mark, where's your studs? I said, I don't own a pair, I wear moulds. And they were obviously really worried about me slipping over or something like that. So I went, okay, Tim. Tim gave me his boots. And after about, they were so uncomfortable. It must have helped him get his spring, but he had feet like bananas. The toes fell off on the Sunday, did. It didn't stop him banging in goals, but yeah, they were so uncomfortable. And obviously got his spring from it. But after about 68 minutes, my both calves cramped up and I had to come off.
I think I remember that, but was it up at Preston? Yeah, didn't we lose 1-0 and they scored right in the first? I remember that because I was in the upper tier of the stand and I'd driven all the way up there, me and my mate. He lit a fag up and was told we couldn't smoke here because it was a wooden stand. We went to the back of the stand, heard a shout and holler, and they scored. We came out and that was it. So according to me, that was a 0-0 game, not a 1-0 game because I missed a goal. Because didn't a certain Mr. Warner have a little fracas with a ball boy? If I remember rightly.
Oh, Tony.
Oh, no, you was cramped up at the time, Mark. You was laying in the dugout, I think. But
he had a few run-ins, but yeah, I think he did. He snatched the ball out of him and then he sent him across the pitch.
That's right, yeah. But didn't you come through the youth team with Robbo?
Yeah, so and Alan Dunn. So we had a great. So I kind of come through a little bit earlier. So we had a really strong youth team. We used to have fights every week in our youth team, full of nutters we were. We had so just reeling off a few names. I was actually in secondary school, so I came out. They got me out into their kind of work experience, school time stuff a year earlier. So I was playing with like Joe Dolan, Stephen Reed, Paul Eiffel, Lake Dempsey, Tim Cowell, Ronnie Ball. So there was lots and lots of quality players in the year above me, and that really helped me, I felt, as a youngster.
And that was Mark Phillips there, former Millwall defender, telling all kinds of stories about cramp boots and Tim Cahill. That's everything we love.
Great to hear from Mark, who we mentioned last week, being discharged from hospital and is recovering from the deadly coronavirus. Hopefully we'll get him back on the show along the way. Pat, can you remember why you were trolling Mark on Twitter prior to that interview?
I have absolutely no idea what you are talking about.
Okay, well, I'll refresh your memory. There was me, you and Ted, as you could hear from the recording. And at the end of the section that the interview concluded with, you said, I've been following you on Twitter this week, Mark. And then Ted said, what, have you been trolling him as well? And then I laughed. Johnny Barrow said, oh, that's something rather serious going on there with Patricia. And then we had the discussion about why you had actually been following him on Twitter. And it was because you'd seen him in a Millwall shirt and you thought something exciting was happening, like he was coming back to the club. And it wasn't that in case. It was because Mark was going to play in a game that was raising funds at the Den before the season started, and he promoted that. So do you remember that at all, Pat?
Not really, but it was ever so interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. You need to have a memory check, I think. That's what's going on there. Anyhow, let's return to some of the potential matters that are facing Millwall. On retaining players in the first instance, centre-back Sean Hutchinson and central midfielder Sean Williams recently agreed fresh contracts, along with promising teenager Billy Mitchell, 18, who has just signed a long-term deal too. Now, we learned that Marlon Romeo is the latest to extend the stay, has put pen to paper on a new deal. And yesterday, Gary Rowett revealed his pleasure. George, does this show some intent by the club to progress further, despite not knowing the outcome of this season?
Oh, very much so. Yes, I mean, the club deserve a lot of credit for this. I mean, we have for some little while now been signing players that we want to keep before their contracts run out, and that is always good policy. So as far from the club point of view, I think they're doing very well in this instinct, and also it's good organisation on the club's part. So this is one of the occasions when I will give the club full credit.
That's a bonus, I suppose. Ever anyone that's looking or listening? Anyhow, Pat, have you your views changed in relation to this season concluding or not?
Not at all.
Right.
I think this season should be null and void. This desperation for the EFL to try and construct a behind closed doors fixtures with players staying away from family and loved ones for 2 weeks prior and in between games is ludicrous. I mean, it's not just about the 22 men on the pitch, it's 2 whole squads, it's a management team, it's the trainers, it's the ground staff, security, medics. Then if one person ends up proving positive with this virus, it's about 60, 70 people off into self-isolation for 2 weeks and affecting future fixtures. It's ludicrous to me. And putting money before lives.
Well, let's see how the government turn things round in 3 weeks' time, and we'll take a refreshing view on that then. Dave, this is a difficult question, but assuming we stay in the Championship, are there any of the loan players we need to capture? And where else do you see that we need to strengthen?
Well, I think we definitely got to keep Woods and Bennett. I can't realistically see us keeping Malumbi. I think he'll be gone. And apart from those two, you've got Leonard, Thompson and Williams returning to fitness. So I think we're just short on strikers because this team hasn't really got that many goals in it. And that's what we need. So strikers would be the area that I would say is the area that we need to strengthen. We did the pools panel results.
Yeah.
We did a quick look at all the results that have been played so far, and if they'd turned out the way the pools panel went, we would be sitting 4th now.
Yes, I did see that.
So
it's incredible.
So I think
at least the pools panel believes
in
us.
Well, just making it like a 1-0 win or 1-0 defeat because you can't judge.
No.
But, and Charlton were in the relegation zone.
Yes, they are.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah, we're actually 5 points clear of 7th place with 3 to go.
Well, let's hope if the season does return that turns out to be the case.
Yes.
And I'll look forward to watching it all on the telly, playoffs and a Wembley final. That'll be wonderful.
With no one there.
With no one there, but perhaps the old sound system booming out, no one likes us, and the players feeling good about that. In the last couple of weeks, we heard about Millwall Lionesses having their season made null and void from Lionesses boss Colin Reid and right back Millie Connell. Earlier on, I spoke with Lioness Elissa Stonebrook about her career, the season past, and hopes for the next season. Tonight, we talk with Lioness Elissa Stonebrook. Elissa is a central defender who has a wholehearted, take-no-prisoners approach in the Millwall way, loves a physical battle and doesn't mind a tackle. Has also played at right back. She's acknowledged as a hard-working individual with a great attitude. She also has a very supportive mum, Jo, who doesn't miss a game either. She was part of the Millwall RTC squad last season, Regional Talent Centre at under 16. Before that, she spent the previous 4 seasons at some place in Greenwich or something that we're red. Welcome, Elissa.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Well, we're delighted to have you on the show. That little bit about that some place in Greenwich, and you obviously came to us. First of all, what brought you to Millwall?
I'd been with the other club for 4 years. I wanted to step out my comfort zone and face a new challenge. I wanted to gain new experiences with a new club and with new players.
And in doing that, what was the experience like when you did arrive at the Den?
It was amazing. I went there and I sort of didn't feel uncomfortable. I felt quite at ease. It was very welcoming from as soon as I got there.
Colin got you out and cracked the whip straight away, did he?
Yeah, he did. It's very.
Well, that's good. Now, there's another bit I also found out is that you've not long ago returned from playing in Florida, in the States, as part of your footballing program, education. Tell us about that. That sounds fantastic.
So we was in Florida for a week, played against some American teams, played in a big showcase at the IMG. It was just amazing.
And just for the listeners, what's the IMG?
It's just like a big academy and they have all the sports and all people go there on scholars.
So you met a really good, interesting bunch of people out there.
I did, yes.
And a great experience, no doubt. So this season was lost to the challenge of a COVID-19 pandemic. Despite that, the Lionesses covered themselves in glory by getting to where the season closed without a league defeat and also defeating higher league opposition in cup side. What were the highlights for you this season?
The main highlights for me was playing against teams in a higher league and giving them a good game. It helped me to become physically, mentally and technically stronger and gave me a challenge that I desired.
Did you play against that other team from some place called Selhurst?
Yes,
I'll say that again. Did you play against that other team they called Palace? How was that game?
Yeah, to play against a team, obviously divisions higher than us. And it was a great game. I think all the girls, we all worked hard. We all wanted it. We showed fight through the whole game.
You really did put a good show on because they're quite a few leagues up from you, weren't they? And you, as I remember, you only lost by the odd goal.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
what a fantastic effort that was. Before we know it, you could be back in action in the same division or possibly at a higher level, having heard from Colin. What are your personal hopes and the hopes for the team for next time round?
For me, it's about improving both as an individual and as a team. I hope the team play at a higher level, which is much deserved, as we showed commitment, persistence and desire through the whole season.
Everyone I've ever spoke to, and we spoke about it on the show last week, Gary Staff, who's had involvement in football at the sort of level that you're playing, spoke about teams cruising through the league and what leagues do to deal with that and elevating them into places where they'll meet their match and develop as well. That's the most important bit. Next season comes along and we're all there, all shouting you on and it's all happening. What would you say to the fans that followed you this season?
I'd like to say a massive thank you to the fans that have followed and supported us, and I hope they continue into the new season. Without the fans, the games wouldn't have had the same atmosphere or given the girls the same drive and ambition to play our best football.
They do make a big difference. And you've got the pitch at St Paul's is a good place to play and probably the best in the league. And you've got Colin as well, who's a coach above the class, I think, of those that are around you. And what about Colin and his team?
I'd like to say a massive thank you as well to Colin for all his time, passion and commitment, and he gave the team through the whole season, and obviously the other staff at Millwall that have gave up their time.
It does make a big difference for you. Just before we go, just give us a little bit of background as to what you do on a normal day outside these pandemic conditions.
So I'd normally wake up around 6:30, get myself ready to go to school, get on the train to school, then get another train, and then I play football during the day with my college, probably about 3 hours a day, and then I come home and then go get changed and go straight to training for Millwall.
That's commitment, isn't it? But I suppose if you love it, you love it. All the best to you and the team for next season.
Thank you.
Pat, is it reassuring as a founding member of the Millwall Lionesses to see the talent that is coming through from the Millwall Community Trust's Regional Talents Centre?
Absolutely. It's nice to see how they continue to grow after the breakup a couple of seasons ago. I went down to the training ground early in the year. There was such a really great atmosphere between all the ladies and the management team. Real great camaraderie there. We were made really welcome. And the team just seemed to be going from strength to strength. And I wish them all the best of luck for the future.
Yeah, they're doing good stuff. And listening particularly to Millie and Alicia this week, it bodes well for the future. Dave, you've watched the Lionesses this season. What has impressed you about their performances?
I think it's the way they've approached every game as a new group. As if they've been playing together forever, because they just seem to gel, and everything came right on the pitch. You know, if they went behind, they gritted their teeth and they got stuck in and managed to pull things back. It was just, you know, everything. They played for each other as a team, and it was just great to watch. Really, really good, entertaining.
Yeah, I've listened to the reports that we've had on the show, and the results are outstanding. So, all the best to them, and great to hear Alicia's view of how things are going for next season too. George, I want to come back to the possibility of the season concluding. Gary Rowett has said UEFA and FIFA have to come up with an across-the-board plan. Each country is in a different situation with the virus. As an example, Belgium have actually voided their season. What actually needs to be done if the season is to be concluded?
Well, you give me a really difficult question here, Eamonn. I see what Gary's saying. He thinks he needs 3 weeks for his players to get back to fitness. He then hopes that he can get, you know, the 9 games played over something like 5 weeks. He says that the next season should start in September, you know, but he's looking at this one to run from June to July. I mean, there's so much going on there that and then he's sort of saying that he should give the players maybe a 4-week break once this season is eventually out of the way. Well, I don't see the point in that because, you know, they've had a 4-week break already. So, excuse the cats in the background, it's Pat. But the one question, and I mean, one, they may be able to play behind closed doors. I mean, I think that's the only option because at no time at the moment can I see you having 10, 20, 50,000 people in a stadium without there being a vaccine. And I think that is the bottom line of just about everything.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of issues, but I suppose for me, and the one thing that sticks out really at the front of it all is contracts. Someone has got to be the arbiter on contracts. It's no good clubs going down some route of dealing it out with themselves because they're going to have to deal with the PFA. And if UEFA and FIFA don't dip in, because there's players across the leagues who have come from different countries, and I know that there's a strong view out there that, you know, we're not in Europe anymore and therefore this government and the English Football League should sort this all out themselves and nobody else is involved. Well, I just can't see that happening because, as I say...
They'll run out on the 1st of July, don't they?
That's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, if we even take what Gary's thinking is that we start maybe in June and we finish in July,
yeah,
then we're going to go right across that period, as you're saying. So
that's right.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions to be answered, and I don't think it's an easy one from what you said, and the bit that I've hooked onto, and the fact that the cats were fighting about it as well just brought it to a major conclusion.
Shows you, didn't it? I mean, you know, we do apologise for everybody listening tonight. We got Pat on the show, but there you go.
Yeah, she's snuffling, not purring or anything like that. She's just snuffling and doing everything to be the biggest noise nuisance going. Anyhow, let me just say, I mean, it's been a great show again this evening. We've had some interesting views, some fun, and definitely, well, it was dogs barking in Berkshire last week, and this week it's cats going radio rental in Bexley Heath. But never mind, there we are. Well, that's all of this from all of us this week, and we hope you join us again from 8 p.m. next Friday, when we will hear from the man who raced to sit on 10,000 seats. Yeah, 10,000 seats. He was lucky. You can't never see nothing like that on a train in London. In the meantime, to the people in the food industry, transport workers and delivery drivers, cleaners, emergency responders and all other key workers, we are immensely grateful for the incredible work each and every one of you do in these very challenging times. We recognise your bravery and commitment and thank you for taking care of us when we need it most. You are our heroes. That's it. Stay safe and good night from me.
And good night from me.
And me.
And stay safe. Good night.
I actually got to talk this week because Stan weren't there.